Morning, everyone.
Good morning, Rabbi.
We are learning Mishnah Erevin, Perek Daled, Chapter 4, Mishnah Tes, Mishnah 9. Okay, so the previous Mishnah mentioned that if a person basically is in a place and he says, this is where I'm going to be spending Shabbos, this is my place for Shabbos, he gets 2,000 cubits from where he is. So Mishnah Tes continues and makes the following statement: V'zu hi sha'amru. Regarding this case that we just spoke about, in the case where a person is in a certain place and he says, this is my place for Shabbos, that we say this becomes his place for Shabbos, and he gets 2,000 cubits in all directions from where he is. This is included in that which the sages said, Ha'ani ma'are baraglov. A poor person can make an Erev with his feet. Now, what that sounds like is that a poor man, which means a person who doesn't have food, he makes his Erev Tchumen with his feet by going there. Since he has no food, how does he make an Erev Tchumen? He goes to the place where he wants to have it. He goes where his place for Shabbos, where he wants his place for Shabbos to be. And that's where he establishes the Tchum Shabbos from where that is. So the same way the sages said a poor man makes an Erev with his feet, meaning without food, right? And until now, previously we spoke about a lot about making Erev Tchumen with food, right? Recently, we've been talking about cases making Erev Tchumen without food. Now here, the Mishnah is saying that this last case that we spoke about, where, again, there's no food there, he's just there, and he says, this is my place for Shabbos, or he decides this place for Shabbos, whether he says it or not. This becomes his place for Shabbos, and he gets the Tchum Shabbos. From here, this is included in the statement that a poor man, meaning a person without food, which includes somebody traveling who doesn't have food, he makes his Erev with his feet, meaning he makes an Erev just by being there. That's the first statement of the Mishnah. Now, if you think about that statement, the poor man makes an Erev with his feet, that would, meaning a person without food. He's either too poor to have food, or he's traveling because he doesn't have food. That's the person who makes an Erev with his feet, meaning he makes an Erev without food. And what if you're not a poor man? How do you make your Erev?
You stay at home and you set the food up.
Designating.
So you say because of food. Then you need to use your food.
Yeah.
So let's see what's written. Now, the truth is that this beginning of the Mishnah leads into the next part of the Mishnah. Omar, or actually depends on the next part of the Mishnah. Omar Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Meir said, Anu ein lanu ela ani. But we hold that when we're talking about making an Erev without food, that is only for a poor man. That means you can't afford food, or because you're traveling, you don't have food. That is when we say you can make your Erev without food. You can make your Erev with your feet. You can make your Erev by being there. Okay, by being there. But otherwise, you should be making your Erev with food. Because according to Reb Meir, the main way that Erev Tchumen was instituted by the sages was by putting food down there. That's the way you're supposed to do it. You're supposed to be putting food down there. You could put the food down there. You could send someone else to put the food down there. But an Erev is meant to be made by you by putting your food down there. That's the real way. That's the main way to do it. In a situation where you have no food, either because you can't afford it or because you're traveling, there the Chachamim said, okay, we'll be lenient. You could do it without food. Now, understandably, if you're in your house and you have no food, not a problem. Food is not an issue if you're in your house. Your house is your house. Here we're talking about where you're not in your house and you want to make your place for Shabbos outside of your house. According to Reb Meir, the main way to do it is with food. If you don't have food because you're poor or because of the fact that you're traveling and you're without food, then we say you can make your Erev without food, but just by being there. Rabbi Yehuda says, Echad ani ve'echad asher. You want to make an Erev without food, anybody can do it. Whether you're poor, whether you're rich, whether you have the food or not. They only said to make Erev with bread, and here it doesn't mean bread because you don't need bread for Erev Tchumen. It means most foods you can use. They only said to make an Erev with food, to make it easy for the rich person, meaning to make it easy for the person who has food, I'm sorry, to make it easier. Sorry, back that up. Right. To make it easier for the person who has food, they shouldn't need to go and make the Erev with his feet. Meaning, according to Rabbi Yehuda, the real way to make an Erev is to go to where the place is that you want to be. You want that to be a place for Shabbos. Be there, wait for Shabbos to come, be there when Shabbos comes, and that's how you make an Erev. That's the real way to make an Erev. The thing is, like Chachamim said, well, that's a bit of a pain to have to go and be there until when Shabbos begins, then come back. That's a bother. Well, so if you have food, you know what you can do? Send someone with the food and put food down there. That was a leniency that was made for a person who has food to use food, so as not to have to go there. But really the real way to make it is with being there. Therefore, if you don't have food, then you have to go over there. Then you have to be there to make the Erev. Now, we learned a case previously about the guy who's traveling and he sees a tree, right? He has a landmark and he makes the Erev there. Now, in that case, there's no food being put down in that place. You're not there. Both these things aren't there. So that was another leniency that was made for a person who's traveling. And as we said, the person is traveling. Now, there is a condition in order for that to work, to be able to use a landmark and say, I want that place to be a place for Shabbos. As we said previously, it has to be that you can get there before Shabbos. As Ratanura says, you can run there before Shabbos and get there. If you actually don't have enough time to run over there, then you can't do it. But you have to have enough time to get there. And, but at the same time, in that Mishnah we learned, the guy was traveling. He's very tired, right? To go and get there before Shabbos is a big tircha. So Chachamim said, you know what? You've been traveling. You're tired. You can just stand here and designate that. But you can only do that if you're traveling. You can't just, if you're able to go, if you're just, you're a person, you don't have food, but you want to establish a place for Shabbos over there. You can't just say, that's my place. You have to go there. If you can go there, you have to go there. If you're not traveling, it's just a question of walking there. You have to walk there. If you have food, put the food down there. If you don't have food, then you have to walk there. To go and be able to say from afar that this specific place, my place for Shabbos, which we said before, that was a leniency only given to someone who has been traveling. And instead of making him have to now because he's tired, get over there when Shabbos begins to make his Erev in that place, we say, okay, you can just, so to speak, designate it. But typically, it's going to have to either be with food or with being there. The question here of Meir and Rabbi Yehuda is, which one's the main thing? Is the main way to make it Erev Tchumen with food? Is that the main way to do it? And therefore, just by being in a place to establish it as your Erev, that is only going to work if you don't have food. And according to Rabbi Yehuda, who the halach is like, Rabbi Yehuda says, anybody can make an Erev by just being there, but you're going to have to be there or send your food there. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Now, when you're talking about